So then, fast forward a few more years, you go through college, and now you're a teacher. Um, what made you decide, to work in the field that you are in right now?
I actually was leaning more so when I went to college, I wanted to do dentistry. And then I shadowed the dentist. And it just wasn't what I was expecting to do. And then I found myself taking an anthropology or a social studies class or a history class or economics, government, whatever it was, as I was taking my bio classes and stuff. And for a certain period of time, I would go to the school protests or, to the Bora Symposium where they would bring, political figures, ambassadors or whatever to speak. And I began to do some things like Black Student Association, African Student Union. I joined the Latino network there. I joined the Native American club there. And I would just go and put my hands in everything I could. And professors and the dean of international studies, Mr. Bill Smith, started hearing about me through that. And so it came a moment where I remember I just wasn't happy with what I was doing. And I remember distinctly that day I went into the biology department and I asked my advisor for advice. And he was just like, oh, I was like, oh, as soon as I showed up, he's like, what do you need me to sign? And I said, nothing, I just need some advice. And he's like, well, that's not my job. And a lot of people there, biologists or whatever, are there to do research. They're not really like advisors or, they just get a professor job and they're there to actually do their own agenda research. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, I felt a disconnect,
So you felt right at home?
Oh my God. They were so down to earth, very welcoming, warm. And, I told him, I sat down with Mr. Bill Smith, I set an appointment. And he was just like, what do you want? Because he looked at my transcript and he saw that I did really well at certain classes because I was actually invested in it. And he was just like, man, why don't you actually try and come and sit in one of our classes and stuff? Okay. So I went and I sat in a couple of classes, and before I know it, I was engaging in those classes and really interested in it. And so I ended up making the move and I switched over my major into international studies. And once I did that, I began to think, okay, maybe I'm going to go into politics, but I wanted to do something more on the international arena. But the crazy part was I was still focused on kids. I was still reffing T-ball, coaching a little league team over there. Every time I saw kids, I tried to interact in any way I could with them. And so I saw this thing where it was the United Nations had this program called the Child's Right to Play. And I looked at that and I saw an organization that actually donated soccer shoes and soccer balls and stuff to Eritrean kids. And I was like, man, that would be nice. And then I began to look at how sports caused, you look at India and Pakistan. They had conflicts for years.
Sure.
Through
cricket, right?
And then, and so you see two villages that hate each other's guts, right? They went into those two villages. One is on each side of the border, and they taught people there, the locals, how to be coaches, how to ref games, and then they coached the kids on how to play those games. Taught them the rules, everything, gave them equipment, and they began playing each other. And all that negative energy turned into, we support our team, and we support our team. But they weren't killing each other. They were playing a game of cricket. As soon as the game is over, they shake hands. We'll see you guys next week. Boom. Peace. Yeah. The violence cut down. Kids were able to play healthily, and people learned the skill, coaching, reffing. They were getting paid for it. And that started, a peace negotiation. And then they were in peace after that, right? And I thought, wow, what if I could replicate that in East Africa or in the Middle East or, and so that's when I kind of decided, okay, I want to see how I could use what I have, my degree, into working with kids. Fast forward to me after I graduated, That summer I stayed here. Remember, I did a program here. I had like 15 kids, and taught them the language in the morning using resources that were free available to me. I got the venue from my cousins, Rahwa and Asmeret. Shout out to them too, in Hidmo. And then, I used Pop's car. I used to drop them off to work, and I used to go pick up those kids, take them over there. And shout out to Arone and Yared. They helped me. They were actually like my tutors, right? And for them, that was a resume builder too. And so that we would teach the kids language the first portion of the day. Then we would do math and writing. After that, lunchtime, we'd go to the park, eat free lunch. And then we'd go downtown and watch the concert at, City Hall, or we would go to Chihuly Garden Glass or the Space Needle, because they would, remember, we worked for them. And I got tickets that way for free. And so, utilizing whatever resources I had, I ran a summer program, and it was so fulfilling that I decided.
And anybody can do that.
Anybody can do it,
So let's fast forward to Portland. Now you're in Portland teaching.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about. I know we had a little conversation about how the communities over there were divided, based on what we call about gentrification, right?
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about that and the effect that had on the kids that you are working with today?
Definitely. So even before gentrification started, what we see today is ripple effects from things that they did back in the like 50s, 60s, right? Okay. There were a lot of people who showed up from California, Mississippi, and stuff to work on the ports. Black people. Portland has this like hidden history of racism, division. So what ended up happening was they put all those people in an area they called the Vanport. It was right by the Columbia River.
What is it called?
Vanport.
Okay.
It's everybody knows about the Vanport flood.
Okay.
So they had 3 schools within Vanport, an entire housing community, over 500 or something units.
This is what, in the 50s?
This is 50s, 60s.
Okay.
So the Vanport flood happened, and it literally drowned all of those housings, all of that, flooded all of it. And so those people were moved into schools like Ockley Green, Chief Joseph, the entire North Portland, that peninsula. And so what they began to do was the Portland, the mayor, the city of Portland decided, okay, well, what we're going to do is we are going to house these people in this area. And then they literally drew a red line around them. And they said, you cannot give people in that area business loans. You cannot sell them houses outside of that area, right? And so what ended up happening was, systematically, they kept those people poor.
That's right? What we call, for those who don't know,
systematic racism. And what ended up happening after that was those black communities began to thrive within their own, right? Their money stayed within their own communities. They opened up their own businesses, stores, clubs, community centers. And then a lot of community leaders like Charles Jordan began to emerge, right? Then you fast forward to today, right? Portland, a lot of people began to move into Portland, including me from Seattle, right? And then you have people from San Francisco, California, New York, as the economy, once the bubble burst back in 07.
08, 07.
Yeah, a lot of people began to move into Portland. And what ended up happening then was, okay, now they began to lower or increase the property
value.
Value and taxes, and kind of people began to sell because they couldn't. People who've been there for years businesses began to close down. They built like train through the city
neighborhoods, inner cities,
the neighborhoods and highways and things like that. And what ended up happening was people began to lose their homes. They built Legacy Emmanuel Hospital in one of the most affluent black in Williams, and they said, oh, we're gonna build all over. There's still a huge empty lot that's not being used for anything, right? So they built the hospital there, pushed people out, closed a lot of their historic buildings and sites, and now you got developers and things coming in, and they begin to buy properties, right? And build something, and they raise the rent. So the property value goes up, the taxes go up. People who lived there for a long time can't afford it, they get pushed out, right? And so now they're moving to the numbers. A lot of the kids, the numbers is basically where so Portland is
like the project basically.
The numbers is basically the further. So you start downtown, it starts at 1, then 2, 3, First Avenue, Second Avenue, Third, and it goes all the way to like 200 and whatever, right? And so people began to move further away from the city, from their neighborhoods, right?
So like here in Seattle, it'll be like Tacoma.
Yeah, Federal Way began to push them. The same way that happened in Seattle when they built MLK, and, right? You remember all that.
Sure.
And so now what we're seeing is the majority of those kids who, and then you talk about the crack epidemics and all that in the 80s, it affected us. And gangs began to emerge in Portland because of policing and brutality. Even the Japanese was affected by it. The Expo Center now is a huge event center. It used to be a horse stables back in the 50s. And that's where they turned that into a Japanese internment camp. Adam's mentor, Sharon, she was born there.
Wow.
Right? So Portland has this grim history, but it's hidden now. Right? And you see the effects of that because now those are the kids that are jaded by the education system that doesn't understand them. You have gangs who had their own areas or whatever. Now they're all mixed due to gentrification, right? And so now whatever they see each other, that's what it goes down. And the violence increased because now they're in each other's territories, right? And
that's the population you're working with right now.
And so we work with kids who are impacted with gangs. We work with kids who, are impacted with, they have this measure that they pass, it's called Measure 11, which tries kids as adults. You can try a teenager as an adult. And what that does is, as soon as a kid does something, boom, they hit them with Measure 11.
And then,
they're in the system now. Yeah, so they can't succeed at life.